he is a beast.
Yeah.
What is GuideGap?
Yeah, so it's GuideGap is an alternative guiding. So we use professional guides, but it's for people who just want to know the best places to go. So, and there's a gap out there in the guiding industry. You either pay for a guide to show you around and take you out, or you're left to figure it out on your own. You're left to use the internet, Facebook, whatever you can to just figure out where you should go. But no one has created.
That's a pit.
Yeah,
You get lost there.
It is so stressful.
Right.
But no one's created something in between where, hey, maybe we create this platform where these professional guides who know all of this information, who do this on a daily basis.
Right.
No one's created a platform to leverage that knowledge until now. Like now we've filled that gap, that guiding gap. Now people can just ask, hey, I want to go here and
Make it happen.
this is what I like.
Right.
This is what my ability is. Where should I go? And instead of, Sally Sue on Facebook being like, oh, I just went here. This is a great trail. And then having another random person be like, oh, but that trail was really difficult. Oh, I thought that trail was easy.
Yeah.
Now we have professionals whose job it is to assess people's abilities and, tell them where to go.
Tailor it.
Exactly. Now you have a professional telling you where you should go.
Right.
And that is what GuideGap is. It brings a custom adventure plan created by a professional guide who lives in that area. So they know what's going on with those trails because they probably brought clients on those trails yesterday.
Right. They're up to speed on what's going on.
Exactly.
They're not your friend that was there 3 years ago and said, "Oh, you got to see the glacier."
That's it. So yeah, that's really what GuideGap does. And then on top of it, of like helping you have a great time outdoors and giving you the confidence of knowing that a professional planned it, you have a local also telling you the important things for when you're done adventuring. They give you their favorite brewery, cafe, restaurant, place to shop. So now like where you want to go in the town as well. And since our guides don't go with you, our pricing starts at $30 and it goes to $40.
Right.
It's extremely affordable to have a guided experience now. And that's how we're filling this guiding gap.
Right.
Yeah.
Super interesting. I feel like there's so much value there. And it's the cool thing that I really like about it is, like I said, there's just endless amount of data, floating around in cyberspace, and researching for anything, let alone, something like this that requires such personal touch, can just be endless hours of work, and you really are not getting anywhere. The fact is, if you do a really good job, just you put a day, 2, 3, a week researching your 4 or 5 day, trip, what you end up with really is you're going to see all the touristy places.
Yep.
With everyone and their cousins, and maybe eat at a place that has a line out the door. That's what you end up with.
Sadly, especially right now with COVID, everyone's getting funneled into these tourist traps.
Right. And I remember, I've only lived here for 3 years, and when me and Rachel tried to figure out what to do, it always ended up being the same stuff. And even when you think, okay, I'm going on this loop, but it's hard enough for people not to be at, there's no room to park because it's just, the highway's full of cars. So I feel like that's also an issue. How do you deal with like overcrowded spots and stuff like that? Like, is there a place where you think you have to tell a person they need to see in Colorado, but it's just impossible because...
Yeah, if there's places, because there are people, let's say we had an instance where a mom was going with her 2 sons, and the mom wasn't very outdoorsy. She just wanted to take her sons on a trail. We're not going to send them on a super remote thing because the experience level, right? So we just sent them on popular trails, but we warned them that the parking lot gets full at 6 a.m. So be there at 5:30 or so on. So our guides tell them, hey, this parking lot gets full. Make sure they're early.
So this is how your tailored experience may be better than most people that didn't get that preparation.
Exactly. And that's why, with every trip, we give a summary of, hey, why this is great for you. And then we always give 3 pros and cons. So what makes that suggestion good and bad.
Right.
Like, okay, this has great views, the trail is very well marked, and it has a lot of people if you want that.
Right.
And then con is parking lot gets full. There's no dogs that are allowed on the trail if you know,
Right.
or something like that. I'm a dog person, so
Yeah.
I always see that as a con.
Yeah, it's a total con.
So yeah, that's kind of how we deal with it. The guides know what's going on in the area. Another good example is guides, you know, if there's a trailhead where there's a lot of break-ins, like guides will be like, hey, make sure you don't have anything in your car. This area is known for break-ins.
Yeah.
That way you kind of know that local input.
Sucks that it's a problem, but it's important to know that it's a problem.
It's very important,
Yeah.
especially if for me, like when I was living on my vehicle, I had a lot of like that was all my
It's your
stuff.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. It's going to be a
so-
lot of restarting, you know, if you don't have that. So that's super interesting. And do they provide any help like after the fact, or it's here's your summary and go on your way? What
So-
about if things go sideways?
So when we send out an order, we always call them to see if they have any questions, if they, you know, they need feedback, and then
Kind of close it out.
and we are sort of the middleman between the guides.
Right.
So if they have any questions, we'll reach out to the guides and make sure their questions are answered. And we're actually working on another service to where they can like actually message the guide itself and get a little bit more feedback from them.
Maybe have like a little chat,
Exactly.
only without a bot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
This is the same thing over and over.
But you know, guides are like creating this network is like herding cats. Like guides are out in the forest, you know, like
Yeah.
they're
I
guiding
totally get
people
that.
with no service. So
My experience with outdoorsy people is it's so hard to get them down to earth for a second. You know, you need them for something, and it's like, okay, well, maybe they'll be there. Maybe they're climbing a mountain.
exactly.
So
Yeah, when I was-
that must be a challenge for you.
Yeah, when I was creating the network, I basically had to have two guides in one place with who could do that activity. And then, you know, we kind of they all have profiles, scoring metrics. So whenever we get an order of, let's say, a mom is going with kids, right?
Right.
And a dog. So
Yeah.
we have guides who specialize with kids, dogs, ADA,
Right.
anything like that. So
Wow.
we have all of that in their profiles, and we use that to decide which guide gets or
These type of
receives the order.
right. Interesting.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. I was actually I used to be in project management and baking,
Yeah.
and I was really good at building things.
Hmm.
So I built all of this,
Right.
but the real challenge was marketing it and like getting
It
at
is.
it.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
an
led into a
endless
whole other
world,
thing.
man. It's just that's another pit, you know, of like you can just throw money at it and it won't do the thing you want because you don't know what you're doing. You know, search engine optimizing and getting it to the right people to understand what they're actually seeing, especially because it's new. When you come up with something new, it's even more difficult because there's no template to how to market this. You know.
Oh my God. And if you want to dive into that, like I can dive into that. Like that was, I don't
Painful
know.
experience.
I don't know how the people at Uber did that. Cause at least I had crowdsourcing
Right.
is already like, it's a thing.
Right.
So you know, but like if I was trying to do this before the term crowdsourcing
Was even a
existed,
thing, yeah.
like,
Yeah. Well, they had a lot of capital, so they figured it
yeah,
out.
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
It's you know, problems you tend to solve themselves if you throw enough money at them. So
That's very fair.
yeah, I feel like if you had that amount, yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that they did and the people that were involved in that startup, you know, sometimes you raise a lot of money and it doesn't do anything. Sometimes, you know, we talk about it now because it's so big.
Yeah, that's very
But,
true.
But you did this single-handedly, getting this off the ground, or
Bootstrapped. I definitely lived below the poverty line for a good solid year.
and you went from doing this job, which I'm assuming is competitive pay or high pay, and you know, banking it can do pretty well.
Yeah, so I guess I'll finish that story off. So I came up, you know, I imagined this, it all hit me in this accounting thing. And so I started working on it, right? It became a side project. I started living out of my vehicle at times, just sort of while I was working, meeting up with guides, going into shops and be like, hey, do you know anyone that would be interested in like being a guide for this area? And just really creating this network. And then finally I figured out what worked, and I went from a network of, let's just say, I think it was like 21 guides to about 120 guides in a
Wow.
matter of 3 months. Like,
Wow.
I was hustling, like
That's insane.
getting out there. And right when I hit
And that's areas everywhere, or do you have like some places in mind?
14 states.
Wow.
So mostly in the West and then New England.
The interesting places.